the air a little bit different today. Meaning, when you walked outside and you touched grass, and I hope some of you actually went outside today and touched grass. But there was a different feeling today for me than maybe some other Mondays in the past. Today kind of felt like for me, there was a signification. College football's back as SEC Media Days were upon us, and SEC Media Days started all today. Brian Kelly was the first one to speak outside of Greg Sankey. We will break down all of the things that Brian Kelly broke down or stated, said a lot of tidbits, a lot of great questions were asked about the upcoming season, about some of the things that Austin Thomas has done with some of the massive hires like Sammy Petito and Kevin Bolden and Jeff Martin that we'll get into tonight. Garrett Nussmeier, I kind of thought today stole the show in so many different ways with some of the questions and answers that he had, along with Whit Weeks and also the electrifying Chris Hilton that we will also break down here tonight. Greg Sankey did open up SEC Media Days today, which we will also talk about some big things that could be coming for LSU football down the stretch in the Southeastern Conference. We'll talk about that as well here tonight as well. The MLB baseball draft was underway, and boy, LSU from a high school perspective got slaughtered. Also got some really key pieces back like Chris Stanfield, Jaden Newt, Tanner Reeves, and Zach Cowan, who will be returning as well. So we'll talk about some of the things that surround the Major League Baseball draft and Jay Johnson. I know some of you are a little bit worried about what happened this past weekend with the Major League Baseball draft. And I'm here to tell you that I'm not as worried as some of you, but what can the two-time and defending national champion head coach Jay Johnson do? And by the way, I think you're going to be absolutely filthy on the mound. So we'll talk about that as well here tonight as well. So many big things that we got to get here to tonight. Now, I will tell you this, and I have on good authority that we got to start to show off with this. LSU did win a national title in football in the year 2025. As in college football 26 on EA Sports, that I had a couple of days off, quote unquote, your boy took the Tigers to the national championship, and Garrett Nussmeier did win the Heisman. And some of these answers and reality of all this, I'm starting to see the maturity and growth from your starting quarterback, which I think will be the theme here tonight that we need to get to. B-Dub, let's get to a couple comments before we get rolling because we got so much that we need to talk about. B-Dub in the 337. Where is everybody watching from tonight? But he says, needed this, Blake. Work is nagging biatch right now. Yeah, man, I feel you. I feel you. But here's the thing, B-Dub, that you and I get to discuss, my man. We get to talk college football, and we get to talk LSU football at a high level. No better time than to be alive than right now. Rob Boudreaux, the man that cuts grass, I think, for a living. I'm not sure. He says, I touch grass every day. That's what I do. Well, I guess he does. Yes. Yes. Rob, some people need to go outside and touch some grass. That's all I'm saying. Go out, go to the gym. Get a little workout in. Go get you a fresh fade. Go get you some new clothes. Go kiss your wife if you got one. Go kiss your husband if you got one. Go kiss your significant other. Go tell your mama you love them. Mama, I love you. Maybe not all in that order. But regardless of all of that, yes, go touch some grass. Today was absolutely awesome, and we got to get it to it. Rodney Scott says, what you think about the LSU's new basketball arena? So listen, I have stayed away from this. I'm glad this question's asked. I guess we can break it up in the early monologue of this before we get moving here. In case you've missed it, Wilson Alexander and others are reporting about the new LSU basketball arena and the things that are going around it in reference to some complications that LSU has had. LSU did allegedly hire a firm in which they were going to build or help be a big part of building the new arena that LSU basketball would be playing in women's and men's basketball with other events that would take place in this arena. The company that they allegedly hired, apparently the CEO got indicted a couple of weeks ago, which has put a really big, what's the word I'm looking, wrench into the situation. Here's what I think. Typical Louisiana. That's what I think. If you have a man that's getting indicted for money laundering, what are you doing in business with someone like that? That's my ultimate thought. But my real thought is to whoever at Rodney who asked the question, brother, with the way that politics are played in this state, it's the most Louisiana shit of all time. That's what I think. That's what I think. It's the most Louisiana thing of all time. So, I don't really have a thought on it. I told Wilson Alexander when I spoke to him this weekend that everything that the advocate is doing, specifically him, because I talked to him, we will be sharing everything from the advocate. Blake Ruffino and AYS is not digging into this. I think that there are a couple of things that are going on with basketball. They're building him a new arena. They are giving him more money in TV revenue than I think that they deserve. LSU is making a conscious effort to make basketball great again. Hashtag not Trump. But I don't think that they have shown that they deserve some of the levels of things that they're doing. Now, they need a new arena because the PMAC is falling. And I understand that. But there also comes a place in time where I look at Jay Johnson, and if he had more TV revenue to work with in the draft, does some of these kids from the high school player perspective go to LSU because of it? You were warned last week. Things do not get said on this show lightly. They never do. They never do. So that's what I think. Garrett Manuel says, listening in the 337, go Tigers. Good to have you in here. Mitch Como says the 337, a.k.a. North Carolina, where we're representing. Good to have you in here. Winston-Salem is in the building, says Jamie Post. The 336, North Carolina. Boy, we got a lot of people in North Carolina in here tonight. Derek Carlin says the 318, Homer, Louisiana. Work is hot right now. I work outside. I bet it's hot as shit. I admire all of you. I really do. You know, I was pulling weeds a couple of weeks ago. It's hotter than a hoochie coochie. I don't know what Alan Jackson meant when he said that way down yonder on the Chattahoochee, that it is hotter than a hoochie coochie, but I now probably pretty much know after pulling those weeds what a hoochie coochie feels like. Now, I don't know what he means, but the great country song of Hoochie Coochie, I know what he now means. That's what I know. Charles McKay says Columbia, South Carolina is in the building. Yes, Shane Beamer also was at SEC Media Days today, too. We aren't talking about Shane Beamer tonight on this show. Spectrum Wellcare says the players' press conferences were great. Listen, man, I thought they were. Chris Hilton, Garrett Nussmeier, I do think of all players that were involved today, I thought he stole the show. And I call it bias, call it whatever you want. I thought Garrett Nussmeier 1,000% today stole the show. Whit Weeks was electric too. Whit Weeks is the dude in the SEC that everybody wants to go have a beer with. That dude, his personality is very, very contagious. Brandon Reese is in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Enemy territory is in the building. Yes, Nick Saban coming back after the reports at SEC Media Days, or is this some bullshit? Now, I got a question for all of you that I'd ask. If you had a chance to hire Nick Saban, would you do it at 73 years young? That's the real question. If Nick Saban said that he would come to my university for $20 million a year, I'd fire my coach today. And I'd take the risk. And I'd go into debt in doing it. You know good and damn well that you would too. Goat is checking in from the 806. Good to have you in here as well. LSU guy says the 713 Houston, Alabama is in the building. A lot of you saying yes to this Nick Saban comments. I would too. And listen, now that you're getting some level of guardrails with TV revenue and caps and NIL regulations and the Trump administration trying to push through the SCORE Act, all of those things, you give Nick Saban guardrails, and he comes back, all of y'all are in trouble. Everybody's in trouble. But let's just be real. Now, I will tell you this: if Brian Kelly goes out there and wins a national title this year, then Nick Saban's got to go somewhere else. Tracy says Saban is trying to get more money from ESPN. I actually do agree with that. That we just talked about that on Ruffino and Joe show, and I agree with Tracy. I 1,000% agree with Tracy that I do believe that that's what he's trying to do. Now, I will say this. As Nick was inducted into the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame last week, I will say this. The last couple of years, really since 2019, 2020, when we started this show at a full-time basis, and we started doing this a lot, I never woke up on Saturday mornings and watched College Game Day. Didn't do it. I'd see some clips here and there, whatever. I got to admit, I love the Pat McAfee, Nick Saban angle here. I think they killed it. I will be real with you. I didn't miss a Saturday morning last year. Maybe one. Maybe one. I think the only one I missed was we did family photos and at 8 a.m. and then we got home at 9 a.m. and I'm sitting there watching. I love Nick Saban in reference to what he's doing currently, and I think he's great for the game being in the chair that he's currently in with ESPN. All right, let's get to it here. Everybody do us a favor by hitting the like and share to all of those groups. If you're on social media, share to all of those social media pages. You're watching us, listening to us on YouTube. Like, subscribe, notification bell, wherever you listen to podcasts, rate, review, and subscribe. Every show is brought to you by our good friends over at Service Hawk Digital Media, where they're trying to, and actually not even trying, as they are and have shown they are the best marketing team and firm in the 225, in the 985, and all of the surrounding Louisiana, Mississippi, and Texas areas. Go over to Service Hawk Digital Media and Service Hawk Digital Marketing if you want those right leads, smart systems, and real growth. Because there's a reason that they are ranked the number one marketing team in the entire state. It's because every time that they get in touch with a business owner, they get in touch with someone who is an entrepreneur. They're getting those right leads with smart systems, but their business is growing rapidly. Go over to servicehawk.io. That's servicehawk.io today and get in touch with our good friends Lee and Justin over there to grow your business. HVAC, electrical, generator pros, all of you, you know that you need marketing. And at a high level, no one's better than our good friends over at Service Hawk Digital Media. All right, let's get moving here. We got a lot to discuss. Big Ten Media Days, SEC Media Days, LSU is there. Let's discuss everything that we heard and listened to. We talk about that next. Stay with us. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way for you to wager on all of your favorite sports, contests, events with the first-to-market odds and lines. Find reviews for all the news for each league, including Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, college sports, esports, and even golf. BetOnline continues to be the top online resource for all of your sports information for live in-game betting, props, and futures. Head on over to BetOnline today and use your mobile device to join and make your first sports bet. Use our promo code BELIEVE50, that's BELIEVE50, BLEAV 50, to receive your 50% off welcome bonus on your first deposit. That's betonline.ag, betonline.ag.
He will sell your house and find you a new. Well, Tyler's the man, he's here for you. If you want to buy or sell, well, it's not too late. Dial 955-0008. Just call 955-0008. Y'all call Tyler, he'll shoot you straight.
Hey guys, I want to tell you about our good friends over at Red Stick Financial. They're your local residential mortgage broker located right here in the heart of Baton Rouge, Louisiana. At Red Stick Financial, they find the bank that works for your particular set of needs to purchase the home of your dreams or refinance the current one. They truly are your partners in this process, and they pride themselves in helping individuals and families with one simple goal in mind, and that is to make home financing approachable, attainable, and stress-free. They are licensed in all Louisiana, Texas, and Mississippi. So from Amarillo to Meridian and everything in between, they have you covered. Red Stick Financial brings you creative, customized solutions, and they don't believe in the one-size-fits-all when it comes to loans. They even have special options for mobile and manufactured homes located in a flood zone and stated income financing for those of us who are self-employed borrowers. If you or someone you know is looking to buy a home, refinance an existing mortgage, or simply want to know what options are out there for your future, give Red Stick Financial a call today at 225-407-9250. That's 225-407-9250. Or check them out online at redstickfinancial.com. That's redstickfinancial.com. Before you purchase the home of your dreams or you go and do that refinance, you need to go local. Go Red Stick.
We're back.
You know what's really funny? I know that we should be in football season when my DMs and my mentions are constantly filled with Notre Dame fans. Like this guy over there at Always Irish, this Rudy Poo. This Rudy Poo candy ass. I don't even know the guy. He is got to be one of the weirdest human beings on the face of the planet. But the way that you know that football is back is here come the Notre Dame Fighting Irish in the boys' DMs and mentions. And by the way, in case you don't follow college football outside of LSU, this past week, Hugh Freeze, the Auburn head coach, has been really under heat for recruiting at a very, very bad level. In that, he's been playing a lot of golf. Now, here come the Always Irish people saying, well, Brian Kelly plays a lot of golf. Look, here's him at a charity event that helps kids with diseases that are very rare, and he gives money to it. And he gets to play golf for the donation that he throws the hospital's way. My God. When you have like tension with somebody and you just need to talk about it and get it over, whether fight, get over with it, or if you got tension with a significant other, get it over with. LSU and Notre Dame's got to play. I hope they play in the playoffs, and I hope them sons of bitches come down to Baton Rouge and Brian Kelly keeps their teeth in. Because I'm about sick and tired of these Rudy Poo candy asses being all in my DMs and mentions. It is absolutely exhausting. Absolutely exhausting. It's also kind of good knowing that college football is back. Nevertheless, let's start off with it. Everybody does us a favor, though, by the way. Hits the like and share. Share to all those groups and comments. Brian Kelly was the first coach in the SEC to open up SEC Media Days today. Now, there was a lot of things going on before he took the podium. Chris Hilton, Garrett, Nussmeier, and Whit Weeks all spoke before Brian Kelly took center stage. We are going to get to the players and some of the things that they said a little bit later. But as the first address that we have gotten from LSU head coach Brian Kelly since the spring football period, I thought it right to talk about some of the things that LSU and him specifically are hitting on at SEC Media Days, and then we'll get to the players in just a moment. I got to start off with this, though. Congratulations to every single LSU Tiger fan that donated. Brian Kelly announced today that over 1,600 people gave into the NIL collective, which raised over $3.5 million when at the end of last season, Brian Kelly called for help. To every one of you, when your head coach called for help and you being a part of this 1,600, that helped LSU do some of the things that they did in the transfer portal and what some of you are doing right now and continuing the support and recruiting that you're doing and helping getting guys like 5-star overall recruit, number 1 recruit in the state in Lamar Brown. Congratulations to all of you. Because if you remember on this show in December, Brian Kelly came out to a podium and said, listen, guys, we need help. We need help. And I need the fan base's help. And I came out and said, listen, AYS has worked a deal out where we're going to give you an LSU win bar. A signed Brian Kelly LSU win bar if you go and give $100 in donations to the Tiger Collective, the Bayou Traditions Collective. And an overwhelming part of you that sent us in, it was like over 250, I think 253 people donated over $100, well over $100, to get a win bar that was signed by Brian Kelly. Drew Summerhall was the person that won it. To all of the 250 of you that sent us in your $100 donations and sent in and was a part of this $3.5 million that was raised, hell yes. Hell yes. I don't know if that was the biggest comment that Brian Kelly made today, but it shows one thing, that when your head coach goes out there and says, I need help, 1,600 of you walked out there and said, let's go get this shit. And I got to be honest, some of you have your thoughts and feelings in reference to NIL, and you have every right to either donate or not donate. That's up to you. Whether you want to or you don't, whether you believe in it or you don't, your coach called for assistance. And 1,600 of you went out there and did exactly what he asked. And I thought today that Brian Kelly, who went out to SEC Media Days, and one of the first things that he said on the podium was, hey, man, on a national stage and one of the biggest stages before the season that we can get on, I called out for help, and you know what? They answered the call. It also puts a lot of pressure on Brian Kelly and this team to perform, because now you have gone out there and you did exactly what he asked you to do. But for right now, before we even tee up and kick off a football, I am proud of you. Some of you did and did not donate. Some of you donated and didn't even put your name in. Some of you sent it well after the fact when all of it was over. But it is of outright importance to show that anybody that comes to LSU will have the financial backing. It also comes to the point of this. In 2021, multiple radio media personalities ran out here and said that LSU was behind in NIL. LSU has never been behind in NIL. They had no idea how to raise and allocate funds until the right people got into the job. There's a difference in being behind. There's a vast difference in being behind and not doing what you need to do. It took 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, $3.5 million was raised during Christmas time. Congratulations to all of you. But today is a signification for me. You weren't behind in shit. You needed a leader to go out there and say, we got to go do what we need to do to be great. And this place performed. So I know a lot of you, and I know some of you that like it, Some of you that want players to be paid, and guess what? You don't have a choice because they are. $3.5 million is significant. Significant. Congratulations to every single one of you. I thought we were behind. Maybe that's why a lot of you continue to watch this show. All right. Let's get to it today. Let's get to a lot of this other stuff. Brian Kelly was at the podium today, and what sounded and what came off in the 4 years that Brian Kelly has been at LSU and at SEC Media Days, by far the most confident he's ever been. Brian Kelly started off today by saying, for the first time, I feel like that we have the chemistry that we need, and we have the talent that we need to be able to be a contender. He said that in 22 and in 23, I thought that we were some pieces short when it came to having the talent to get where we wanted to go. Brian Kelly came out today in the start of SEC Media Days and talked about the love of the relationships that he's been able to build with his players. And he talked about, and the first thing that he mentioned was the amount of focus that every single player, and I'm sure there's been some times where there's been a lack of focus, but you know what he means. And a lot of this is coach speak. But that the focus around LSU this offseason and this summer has been to go 1-0. Guys, we have not won a game in 3 years under Brian Kelly to start off a season. We haven't won the last 5 games to start a season since Joe Burrow graced us with his presence. And that whole team went absolutely nuclear. But Brian Kelly made it a point today to say, hey, all over our facility, all over the weight room, everywhere that these young men go, we got to start off the season by going 1-0. It's the only thing that matters. And the emphasis of that and talking about the pressure that internally is in the building for me in covering this team and for you, the fan, that's been watching this team for a while now, and then now going into the 4th year under Brian Kelly, I don't know, as I raise the roof with my hands here, I don't know if the pressure has not been mounted this high. You know, in 2023, when during the spring and during the fall, my happy-go-lucky self ran out here and said, look, man, I'm putting some serious money down on Jane Daniels to win the Heisman. I think he's there. But defensively, we might be cooked. We were cooked. But the intensity of Brian Kelly about what they've done as a program has never been as high as it is right now. With some of the statements they say, listen, it's about going 1-0. We have the talent to get there. They got to believe in themselves. They got to lock in with focus. We believe with the things that we're returning and the players that we're getting in from the portal, we think that we're there. Better go perform on it. You can't keep making these statements and not go perform on it. But regardless if LSU beats Clemson by 20 or loses to Clemson by 20, none of that matters in reference to the level of intensity that this program has made for itself. What is interesting about Brian Kelly talking about the relationship piece, Brian Kelly talking about, listen, I could show you all of the players coming to me and saying, Coach, we're locked in. We're very much locked in, but I need your help. I'm reaching out to help. And that the relationships now that have been built through 4 years in the culture that now is being set, is this the time that LSU can make the move? That is the overall consensus of what your head coach started off SEC Media Days with today. Now, there were some key pieces that he hit in that we need to address. But outside of the NIL piece that he brought up, and in thanking all of you, guys, if you thought the intensity was very high, which it was, coming into the season, Brian Kelly's address today, and in some of the comments saying, we're locked in. We got to go. We can't go 0-1. We got to start off fast. We got too many talented pieces. This is the most talented team that we've had since I've been here. If those are the statements that you are going to make, the bar has got to be set high. Now, I need this team to show that they can do that. Now, can they? They have some talented pieces, some very talented pieces. What does the O-line do? Can you get the running game going? And Garrett Nussmeier addressed all of those situations head on more than his head coach today. But there is no mistaking, as I do the Makembe Mutombo finger wag. No. The intensity has been ramped up to level 10. The anticipation of you now going into Clemson has lifted up into 10. Brian Kelly started off by saying that in the roster building and in the building of his culture, that LSU academically in the 4 years that he's been here has never been as high as it is right now, and what their motto is in graduating champions. You know, everybody says when we talk about NIL and the portal and all these different things, nobody ever brings up academics. Nobody. Brian Kelly stating in the last 6 years that LSU from a GPA standpoint has never been this high. Guys, he's doing something right. Probably more than wins and losses is the most important thing. But getting on the field and what we should expect, this is what Brian Kelly's statements were. He talked about the 3 young men that he brought with him to SEC Media Days. Starting off with Chris Hilton saying that I think that Chris Hilton is the ultimate game changer. Guys, if you talk to anyone in that building, I brought this up 2 weeks ago. If you talk to anyone in that building, the silent, the very quiet, the very humble Chris Hilton has been a massive leader this offseason for this team. Something has clicked and changed. Chris Hilton, who has been a frequent guest on the show and a young man that we love, you have the head coach going out there publicly saying, listen, Chris doesn't say much, and a lot of his leadership comes by his actions and comes by him working his ass off religiously. You know, last week we talked about when Chris Hilton was announced that he was going to SEC Media Days. Chris Hilton did not stop these 5 a.m. workouts that started with Jaden Daniels. He's been there to every one of them. But the main thing that Chris Hilton brings, per Brian Kelly, is, man, he might have been our best receiver last year in the way that he performed down the stretch when he was healthy. Now, we all know that number 3's got to stay healthy, and we're all there. But the biggest thing coming out of LSU, whether it was the conversation that we had last week or 2 weeks ago, whether it be the conversation and the thoughts that Brian Kelly stated in his opening statements about the players that he brought, when Chris Hilton speaks, the entire team listens. Starts reminding me of culture that I don't think that you had in 2023, if I'm being humbly honest. And you certainly didn't have last year. He also talked about Whit Weeks, and he talked about that he is the anchor of your defense in the middle. Coming off of injury from that bowl game, a lot of the same things that everyone gravitates toward Whit Weeks. Everybody. And what's interesting, and here is some inside baseball knowledge, not literal, but inside baseball knowledge that a lot of you are going to see after this week. Brian Kelly's not lying. You know, the Netflix documentary that is coming out about the SEC in the 2024 season will be released on Netflix here in the next week or 2 weeks, whenever it is. And in that documentary, you're going to see the LSU football team being followed. In case a lot of you didn't know this, they followed a lot of SEC teams last year. LSU was one of them, by the way. And in the follow of LSU, what you're going to see is defensively a star being born in reference to leadership. Whit Weeks going to teammates, regardless of their background, regardless of who they were, playing spades, playing dominoes, playing cards, being a leader. And Brian Kelly talking about the advancement that he has got to have on the field in year 2. And then in year 1, or not year 1, and in this year, potentially his last year, he is the anchor and the straw that stirs our drink. Guys, it sounds like you're bringing a lot of leaders into this, and it sounds like going into the season that you have a lot of vocal leaders and a lot of leaders that have shown that they see the intensity of their head coach, and quite honestly, a team that looks and sounds like at the current moment that is quietly humble and bullish on where they can go with the 2 young men that you brought. But we're going to talk about a lot of Garrett Nussmeier after the break in just a moment. Brian Kelly ran out there today in a very passionate conversation talking about Garrett Nussmeier, your quarterback, saying that this being year 2 of Garrett Nussmeier, a man that loves LSU, and all of the conversations that I have had with Garrett Nussmeier this offseason have been about one thing. How do I develop? How do I get better? Brian Kelly confirming the questions and all of the things that we worry and wonder about in the offseason. Brian Kelly stated today at SEC Media Days that all of our conversations don't remotely come close to talking about individualized things that Garrett Nussmeier did well last season. None of the things that Garrett and I talk about are individualized Heisman Trophy goals. They're about team goals and a championship. The main goal that Garrett has been talking about is how do I get better and not do some of the things that I did a year ago? You have a voice in Chris Hilton that when he speaks, whether with his leadership of actions or his leadership by voice, people are listening. Same with Whit Weeks. But now you have a second-year starting quarterback who's constantly going to his head coach saying, Coach, what do you think about this? What do you think about this? What do you think about this? What do you think about this throw? What should I have done here? Where can I be better here? What can I do here? Etc. And guys, to be honest with you, it starts breeding some confidence. See, in my line of work, in you as a fan, your job is to siphon through the bullshit. It's deciphered through the situation at hand that is presented to you. Is Brian Kelly just saying all this shit, or does he really believe it? Guys, with the statement about the players, with the statement about we are putting this shit all over the locker room, be 1-0. And either this team is going to really own it and they're going to do it, or we're not going to live up to the amount of pressure that's set for us. And guys, that's not just for players either. Putting it all over the facility is for coaches too. You know what's interesting? You hadn't really heard a lot from Brian Kelly this offseason like you have in years past. It's been a little bit different of the amount of focus, which brings me to this question. Is Brian Kelly going all in? Now, if he does go all in, and I think that they are, guys, I got to be real with you. I love some of the things that I'm hearing about how the offseason has gone. Now, stay with me here. It doesn't change what we need to see on the field, because on the field and in the questions that we're going to talk about, which Brian Kelly just got asked today, and some of those that he tried to get out in front of. Offensive line struggled. They need to protect Garrett. Garrett talked about this a lot. Listen, we got to be better in the run game, and it starts with me because I got to start taking off in some of these situations too, and I've worked all off season to be able to build my body to be able to do that. Good. because we need it. All of those things are going to come to pass. And then, guys, in 2 weeks, we're out at football practice. In 2 weeks, you and I are going to be having a conversation about, hey, man, it's day one of LSU football summer camp. And we're going to go out there and see with our own eyes just how much this team has developed. Can you develop in one summer? Did we get astray from what we actually saw during spring? But you have a head coach that is very bullish on this team and a team that seems like it's got some very good leaders that are upon it. We talked about the Clemson opener. We talked about, or Brian Kelly was asked about this, and he brought it up in his own doing in the press conference, which is the big thing. He says, guys, we have all set goals, and we have talked to the team about setting goals this season. And the only thing that we have talked about, is going 1-0 against Clemson to start the season. Now, guys, I do feel like in years past, when we've talked about LSU at SEC Media Days, whether we've talked about LSU in their season leading into it, hey, man, you got to go on the road to Alabama. Can you win there in 2023? Hey, man, Alabama in year one comes in here. Can you beat them? Hey, well, we got Tennessee on the schedule this year, or we have to go to Texas A&M at a night game. How is that one going to play out? This year, the entire vibe and conversation revolved around one team. And it revolved around we only can worry about starting off in week one and winning the game that's in front of us. I've never heard this staff, I've never heard this team talk about it the way that they did. Brian Kelly, I went back and listened. In his opening statement, brought up being 1-0 3 times. That it's our only set goal and focus. And as he stated in his press conference today, we will take everything else and go from it from there. Our goal is to go into Clemson and win week one. And it doesn't stop that he praised Dabo Swinney. It doesn't stop that he praised how good Clemson as a team's going to be. They're very good. They're a very elite team. But it is attainable for us to go out there and win week one, and you better bring a defense, which leads me to this. Before Brian Kelly was asked questions from the media, he brought up what is the biggest thing that he said at SEC Media Days in 2025 to Blake Ruffino. Blake Baker, says Brian Kelly, is very elite at his job. It was our fault last season that we did not give him more tools to work with. He responds, does Brian Kelly, after that, in stating, we feel as if that we got him the right tools to take this defense to places we have not taken it to this in my tenure at LSU. Because the LSU offense has gotten a lot of run this offseason. A lot of run. We have talked about Garrett as a year 2 guy, justifiably so. We've talked about the wide receiver core with Chris Hilton, who says today, and which we'll talk about in just a moment, that he thinks that, listen, we got too many weapons for you to guard all of us. And I think he might be right. Whether it be the running game or some of the electric guys like Carius Kerner or Harlan Berry that are coming in as freshmen, the offense has gotten a lot of play. For me, guys, I think this team defensively might have finally found their way. I do think that they have the talent. With the edge unit, with some of the things that I'm praying to God and I hope that you achieve in your defensive line room, especially at DT. Bringing in Sadir Mitchell, bringing in Bernard Gooden, bringing in a freshman 2 years ago in Don McKinley, you need that unit to do what they need to do. Because I do think you're good enough in your secondary to be better than what you were. I do think you're going to be better at safety than what you were a year ago. I do agree with Brian Kelly for me, I feel like that you have more tools to work with this defense than guys, quite honestly, that you've ever had. I do agree with Brian Kelly on one thing. I do agree with him that this is the most talented defense that he's had. And he mentioned when you go into Clemson, South Carolina in week 1, you better pack a defense. And he's right. Gus, for me, I feel as if that today was a statement from Brian Kelly in the sense of, guys, I see a lot of confidence. I see a lot of swagger. I see them moving differently. I see them talking differently. I see them being mature as hell in a lot of different ways. A lot of times at SEC Media Days in the past under Brian Kelly, there's been sound bites. It's like, man, why would you say that? Today's sentiment was, we're going 1-0. We went out and got a lot of talent, and we got to go take it to teams because we got some goals that we want to accomplish. It was very justifying. It was very great as a fan, like a lot of you. It's great to hear. Can they live up to those expectations? Will be the big deal. I lied. There was one more thing. Brian Kelly did bring up in reference to Austin Thomas. Well, that was in the questions part. Actually, we can get into that. Brian Kelly was asked some questions at SEC Media Days that I want to run through. He was asked about his offensive line. Brian Kelly brought up his offensive line saying, listen, I am very bullish on our offensive line, and it's a lot to replace with guys like Will Campbell and the other 3 guys that got drafted last year. But I think Brad Davis has done a really good job developing. We'll see. He does bring up Braylon Moore. He does bring up Josh Thompson, and he does bring up DJ Chester. What was significant today in the question asked to Brian Kelly about his offensive line that we got to look at and see very quickly in practice number 1, practice number 2, is that he talked about DJ Chester being versatile and being able to play guard and center. He talked about bringing in Braylon Moore from the transfer portal and playing center. And he talked about Josh Thompson being in the interior. Guys, we did not see that unit at all during spring. That same unit that gave up 6 sacks in the first half of a spring scrimmage, there was never a time until the very end where you saw a rotation of Tyree Adams, Josh Thompson, Braylon Moore, DJ Chester, and Weston Davis. Can that unit show what needs to be shown? Can they hold up enough? Can they be solid enough in the running game to give Garrett Nussmeier enough time and to be able to use Caden Durham, Caleb Jackson, Harlan Berry, Trey Holly, God bless him if he comes back? Can there be a situation where that offensive line as a unit takes the next step that you could not get past a season ago and running the football? Can Joe Sloan be better in offensive play calling from the run game is a whole nother thing too. Man says he's very bullish along his offensive line. They got a hell of a thing that they got to prove here to be able to show that they can take that next step. The significant part of the offensive line question is this. Brian Kelly wasted no time at all to talk about the 2 transfers that he brought in along the interior of the offensive line in Josh Thompson and Braylon Moore, and he wasted no time at saying that we're moving DJ Chester to right guard. None. Brian Kelly will always tell you things without telling you things. And the first question today about his offensive line fully comes to me in the sense of, hey, man, we ran some things during spring. We got to find our offensive line unit now, which, again, we'll see how that develops and that goes. Secondly, Brian Kelly was asked about Austin Thomas. And probably what was the best question of Brian Kelly from our good friend Dave Shoemate at SEC Unfiltered was, you brought an elite personnel unit in the off-field role. Stop right there. Dave Shoemate, who is our good friend who works at SEC Unfiltered, used to be an off-field role director of player personnel in college football, who left the business to go into media. Dave is very well connected in the coaching ranks, very well connected. He asked Brian Kelly about having a GM with Austin Thomas and doing some of the and pulling off some of the moves that they did last week. Our good friend Dave Shoemate, who's in the business, said that Brian Kelly, Austin Thomas, and company pulled off some elite moves last week, and they did. Brian Kelly did bring this up with Austin Thomas. He said, I've never had a general manager before. And it was always a little bit different to me in the beginning. But Austin has done the things need to be done to take us to a level that we need to be at. He has. Because Austin Thomas has got to get his flowers, because I think they knocked it out of the park with what they did with Lamar Brown, what they did with Sammy Petito, what they did with Kelvin Bolden, and what they did with Jeff Martin. You upgraded in the off-field personnel, and you got the top player in your state. And by the way, I see Blaine Bradford's Instagram just like you do. The number one safety in the state of Louisiana and the number two player inside the state of Louisiana. Boy, that Instagram got a little interesting this week, didn't it? Boy, that thing got interesting this week. When you hire elite people, elite shit happens. I don't know. Maybe you should have hired Sam Petito a little bit sooner. I mean, I'm just saying. Maybe you should have hired the man a little bit sooner. But the bottom line remains, we might win a lot of games this year. You better start keeping your eyes on recruiting. LSU's after a couple of 5 stars, and I don't think that they're done trying to go after a quarterback either. New life breeds new ideas. And in those new ideas, shit starts happening. All right. Brian Kelly was asked about his golf game. Now, again, the funny part about this is that in Brian Kelly being asked about his golf game, I think with all the stuff that's going on with Hugh Freeze, the head coach of Auburn, it's been a little bit interesting here to see how that's played out with Hugh Freeze and his fan base really coming down on him. Brian Kelly did make a funny statement. He said, listen, I've been too busy in the month of June and July to be worried about golf. And guys, I got to be real with you. From some of the things I hear outside of the vacation that he went on with his wife to the Grand Canyon, a lot of people said that he's been a little bit more focused than maybe normal about locking in on the season. Brian Kelly, some other couple of questions that he was asked was in reference to the transfer portal, the College Sports Commission. The only thing I would say there is I think that, quite honestly, I agree with a lot of things Brian Kelly says, saying in the new world of NIL with the College Sports Commission and everything that is a hold with the House settlement case and TV revenue, the biggest concern for coaches right now is that they have zero transparency with the commission on how they should do NIL deals and how they should do things with the House settlement. Guys, that's got to be aggravating. Brian Kelly is a lot of things. Dumb is not one of them. Guys, when he speaks about college football as a whole, he's very intelligent about what he says. Highly intelligent. When a coach comes out here and says that there's not a lot of transparency when it revolves around NIL, is telling you that the battles that they're currently in have been just a level of same than in the past, even though you've had a lot of stuff that's changed. You heard from a coach today that said, what's changing in recruiting? So you did all of this with the TV revenue, House settlement, but guys, there's been no transparency with the commission. I do not envy that man. What a hell of a time to be in. Brian Kelly was also asked about the defensive line. He was more specifically asked about going up against Nick Saban and Kalen DeBoer. But Brian Kelly did not talk about those teams and going up against Saban or Kalen DeBoer. Brian Kelly took it for a whole different level. Brian Kelly said in some of these SEC games, our defensive line got pushed around. If you watch this show enough, you know that that's the truth. You know it's the truth. Because LSU has gone out and got 5 defensive line recruits from the high school ranks in recruiting, 3 of them being 5 stars. They went out in the portal and they got 5 defensive linemen in the transfer portal, and Sadir Mitchell and Jack Pyburn and Bernard Gooden and Jamari Butler, Patrick Payton. They told you without telling you that they 1,000% believed that their defensive line was an issue a season ago, because it was. And Brian Kelly said the loud part, the quiet part out loud, stuff that we've talked about in this show. And as God is my witness, guys, it's been why you've been getting your ass whooped defensively. There's no other way around it. You can blame Matt House and his scheme all you want to, but the overall fact is it happened to you last year too. And there's no X's and O's for getting blown off the football. It's want to and talent. If you are going to be a playoff team, your defensive line has got to be better. That interior, I've said this multiple times. If someone made the argument to me that Sadir Mitchell was the most important transfer in this class of a season ago, I would respect the argument. I don't know if I would agree with the argument, but if you had the debate that Sadir Mitchell, the big defensive tackle out of Texas, was the biggest transfer portal need to help plug up the middle. Guys, if you've watched this team at any given time, we have not had a defensive tackle play good enough in the run game that could solidify what you now can do at edge. Hasn't existed. Brian Kelly just said the quiet part out loud. Last but not least, Brian Kelly was asked about Whit Weeks, and he was asked about his defense with Harold Perkins. He also stated that he finally feels that we can get Perkins in a role that would benefit our needs and his needs. Gus, we've heard that same song and dance for all 4 years that Harold Perkins has been here. The bottom line with Perk is this. I could see how you could say that the star role and star position for Perkins will be a good one. Guys, let's unleash his ass on the edge. Let's let him blitz from that star role and keep sending his ass. Get after the quarterback and get after this running game. Let's see what Perkins looks like, but it does appear that that Whit Weeks and Harold Perkins have been cleared and should be a go for the start of camp. One other note that Brian Kelly brought up, and we are wishing this young man very well. Nick Anderson was in a car accident this past weekend. He is fine, but the car accident but accidentally made Brian Kelly say something that I don't know if he was wanting to say. Brian Kelly did say that Nick Anderson should be a full go for summer camp. He had not been cleared, and we had not seen him since game 1 of last season. Does Nick Anderson find his way, the big wide receiver out of Oklahoma who had 10 touchdown receptions a couple of seasons ago? Is he going to find his way and starting in this lineup will be a question. I hope Nick Anderson is okay. It seems like he is going to be okay. And I thought that was pretty significant that they are anticipating for him to be in fall camp as a full go. All right. I see a super chat here from Dr. Butler. $20 super chat. He says, BK will be fine, but LSU had great teams before he got here. He never acknowledged our historical natties or greatness, nor our past great players. The 2 tough years after COVID does not define the Tigers. Go Tigers. I think he's brought up some situations, but today for sure, he did solidify that, I felt like, too, Dr. Butler, in some ways. So I agree. The question becomes did Brian Kelly overachieve in the first 2 years in some regards and not be able to fully rebuild the roster of what he thinks that he needed to build is the ultimate question. Did it take 4 years instead of 3 based off of you only having 39 scholarship players and some of the things that you had to do that either backfired or just like we had to do it because we didn't have a choice? We will see in that. Feels like you're aligned in a lot of areas right now for sure. All right, let me get to a quick break. We come back and talk about some of the player interviews. Garrett Nussmeier lighting up today. We talk about that next. Stay with us. Hey, Southwest Louisiana. Are you ready to gear up for your next outdoor adventure or tackle that next big job on the farm? Then head on over to Henderson Tractors, Boats, and Power Sports. At Henderson and Lake Charles, they've got everything you need under one massive 30,000 square foot indoor showroom. Kubota tractors and mowers to power through the toughest tasks. Polaris off-road bikes and side-by-sides to conquer any trail. And tracker boats with brands like Ranger, Nitro, Sun Tracker, and Regency pontoons for a day out on the water. Whether you're a farmer or a hunter or just someone who loves the great outdoors, Henderson has what you need to get the job done and have fun while doing it. Browse their new and used inventory over at their website, hendersonimplement.com. That's hendersonimplement.com. Or give them a call today at 337-436-4366. That's 337-436-4366. Or go see them over in Lake Charles on the corner of East McNee Street and Highway 14. Remember, if you need a tractor, go to Henderson. Need a boat, go to Henderson. Or if you need an ATV or side-by-side, you know where to go. Henderson. Just let them know that your good friend Blake Ruffino over at AYS sent you on by. Guys, let me tell you about our good friends over at Grand Slam Heating and Air, where your comfort is their top priority. At Grand Slam Heating and Air, they promise to provide customers with high-quality HVAC service at an affordable price while ensuring the homeowner peace of mind. From their office to your home, they guarantee the best hassle-free experience around. Efficiency and comfort is their game. Let them make your home Grand Slam today. At Grand Slam Heating and Air, they're offering their annual maintenance plan starting off at $18.75 a month and also doing those $99 tune-up promotions. They provide free estimates for system and ductwork replacement as well as offering financing to get the job done with no money up front. From Baton Rouge to Hammond to Covington, they're all around. So what you need to do today, give them a call at 225-380-9065. That's 225-380-9065. Or go over to their website, getgrandslamair.com. That's getgrandslamair.com, where your comfort is their top priority. Guys, you might know my good friend Carol Falls and all the great service that he provides over at State Farm. He is your good neighbor after all. But did you know State Farm has surprisingly great rates as well? Along with the great neighbor service, State Farm agent Carol Falls has surprisingly great rates for everyone inside the state of Louisiana. So call him today at 985-395-4300, 985-395-4300 for all of those surprisingly great rates on auto, home, and life insurance needs. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there, and individual premiums will vary by customer. All applicants subject to the State Farm underwriting requirements. And so is Zach Cowan. I don't know what's happening here. Hopefully our internet starts picking back up, but it's not looking very promising as it is absolutely poo-pooing right now. But some breaking news coming out of Baton Rouge. LSU right-handed pitcher has officially announced in Zach Cowan that he's returning for the 2026 season. I think that's very significant. We will talk about that in just a moment. But Zach Cowan, your right-handed pitcher who dominated for you against Arkansas both times that he saw him, absolutely shelling the Arkansas Razorbacks, is returning for his senior season. Absolutely massive for Zach Cowan. what can Nate Yeskie do with another offseason with a guy who had some moments where he absolutely dominated in the SEC? Very quickly, we're going to go through some of these player situations. I want to start off with Garrett Nussmeier. In this sense. Garrett Nussmeier was one of the key, if not the key guy at SEC Media Days on Monday. And I got to be honest, I loved everything I heard that came out of Garrett Nussmeier's mouth today in interviews. In some of the situations where we saw Garrett Nussmeier today, I saw nothing but maturity. I saw nothing but a level coming from a guy who acknowledged some of the things that they and he has got to be better in. The first thing that Garrett Nussmeier, when he was at a podium today, he was asked about and in reference to what he thought of his offense a season ago. And the first thing that he said was, number one, let's start taking accountability for things that I did. I cannot turn the ball over as much as I did. I got to use my legs more. We need to run the football more, and I need to check into some running plays a little bit more. Guys, last year, Garrett Nussmeier does not make those statements. It doesn't happen. 2 weeks ago at the Manning Passing Academy, we had a segment that we posted in reference to, and I think Brandon or whoever titled it, the maturity of Garrett Nussmeier, or Nussmeier stands out at Manning Passing Academy, or whatever it was. And at the Manning Passing Academy, Garrett talked about, listen, if I control what I can control, if I do the things necessary of what I need to control, then we will take the next step offensively because I will do X, Y, and Z better. Brian Kelly came out today and said that, listen, and he said this before, experience is the best teacher. And he's right with that. I think of a young kid that's standing next to a hot stove. When you put your hand on that hot stove once, I bet you ain't going to do it again. In some of these situations that Garrett had a season ago with the turnovers, if those cut down, and listen, my man, before any of y'all say something about me or us talking about those turnovers, guys, I'm telling you that all of you that came out here and talked massive amounts of shit to me about talking about those turnovers, guys, we don't guess about things that are going on in that building. There's no guessing games going on. The emphasis from Sloan, the emphasis from BK, the emphasis from Garrett himself, and then the first thing that he said today, got to cut him down. Way too many. I made way too many bad decisions, and we got to cut that down. So before we talk about the great things that we did a season ago, which there were some great things that he did a year ago, we got to cut these things down to go where we want to go. Guys, that is maturity at the highest order. Maturity at the highest order. Another thing that Garrett said and he said this at the Manning Passing Academy, that I think is significant here, has been a massive emphasis on the run game. Garrett Nussmeier does not run out to the podium today and talk about the run game unless it's coming from BK and unless it's coming from Joe Sloan at a significant level. Getting his body prepared per him to be able to, listen, if things are not there, Garrett, you got to take off. If there's a light box and we got to overload on the right side, you got to check to a run and we got to get a running play to that side. I think the things that we have seen and we have heard of happening in this offseason surrounding LSU for Garrett specifically has been, hey, these are the things individually that we got to work on, but you as the commander-in-chief, the CEO, the president of this offense, we have got to do this from an X's and O's standpoint. Maturity at the highest order for Garrett has been massive for me. And when he takes that next step, sky's the limit for him and sky's the limit for LSU. Whit Weeks praised everybody on their defense. And he said the right things. Listen, I think that we have a lot of players that came in here from the portal We've had a lot of guys that have been here with us. I think we all have gotten better. Man, I pray that is the case. Whit Weeks feels like, and every time that he speaks, that the man loves football, that he's got a great rapport with his teammates, and guys, as the anchor of that defense, he's got to. Is Whit Weeks in a year 2 under Blake Baker going to take the step that we need him to take? Because he's got to take that step for us to be there. The big thing that I heard from Whit Weeks today was a silent confidence. Let's see if they can go perform on it. Last but not least, Chris Hilton. Guys, Chris Hilton was, for me, a man of not many words who made one of the biggest statements today that is not Chris Hilton worthy. If you've watched this show long enough, you have built a rapport with Chris Hilton. You know him. I know him. Chris Hilton does not come out here and say things unless what he's seen has been proven. Chris Hilton was asked today, and in the biggest statement that he had, outside of praising the Lord Jesus up above, which we'll get to next, is he was asked about the wide receiver room. And if you watch a lot of things a season ago and what teams and how teams attacked LSU, there always felt to be that there was something in the passing game holding them back, whether it be O-line, whether it be just timing, whether it be guys not getting open. But a guy who has been here for a lot of great wide receivers, his roommate, ex-roommate included, and Brian Thomas Jr., saying, listen, man, you might try to take away one of us. You might take away two of us. But, bro, our room is so deep that we got guys all over the place, and you're not going to stop all of us. If you want to stop me, if you want to stop Aaron, if you want to stop Trey Dez, sounds good. Here comes Barry on, and here comes Nick Anderson. And, guys, quite honestly, that is what makes this offense so freaking dangerous. If Garrett has enough time, I do think that you got the weapons that, dude, you might go off. I think that your wide receiver room this year demolishes the room that you had a year ago. It's not on the same stratosphere. This wide receiver room that you have might have taken a massive leap because, guys, your fifth receiver might be Destin Hill, and in spring, Destin Hill might have had some of the biggest plays. That is not to say that you do still have Trey Dez at tight end / wide receiver, and you still have Bauer Sharp that you want to get in the fold here. You have an abundance of riches. And Chris Hilton says, yeah, try to take one of us away. We got two other guys that will tee off on you. Chris Hilton don't make that statement, and I'm telling you, for what I know, not guessing, he doesn't make that statement if there hasn't been some things that he's seen. Love the player interviews. I highly suggest all of you to go listen to all of them. I think our good buddy Mike Scarborough's got him up on his YouTube channel. You need to go listen to them. They're elite. And you know how I don't like throwing that word around. They have been very, very elite. All right. Kind of coming up on time here. So listen. Before we get out of here, do we have any more super chats, Brandon? No? Okay. Before we get out of here, I do want to mention this. The LSU baseball draft, we're going to actually punt on in this regard. We're not going to go in great detail or great depth. What we are going to do here is talk about a couple of things. Number one, let's see what tomorrow brings, because I do think tomorrow is going to bring a lot. Yes, I do. Or Wednesday. But LSU baseball did get hit pretty hard in the draft from a high school player perspective. Brady Ebell, Jaden Fosk, Quentin Young, and others like Dean Moss, Landon Hodge, and others, Briggs McKenzie, have all gotten drafted. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 of the 10 players that were in the top 100 have been drafted that you had committed. You do have some massive power that did not get drafted that will be on campus. I think of Cerna being a massive part of that. I think of a lot of others that do come in the fold of that have a lot of power in this freshman class. Mason Braun being one of them. Ethan Klaus being another. William Patrick being another. Guys, you did get a lot of really, really solid talent that did not get drafted. You got hit hard, a lot like Arkansas and Tennessee and et cetera. You also got hit a little hard, but a lot of this to be expected from the players that got drafted that were already on your team and some of them that could have returned. Cade Anderson was the third overall pick to Seattle. You knew you weren't getting him back. Chase Shores, I saw some local radio guys saying, I think he can come back. We talked about this at nauseum. There's no way that a dude consistently throwing 101 was coming back. Anybody that was talking about that was an idiot. But Chase Shores got drafted 47th to the Angels. Anthony Ianson, 87th to Boston. Ethan Fry surprised some people here and got above slot value, going 95th to Houston at $800,000, the $800,000 deal. Danny Dickinson, 185 to the Brewers. Bear Jones, 263 to the Pirates. Jacob Myers, 268 to Boston. I will tell you today, per sources, that Jacob Myers, there was a conversation that was had with Jacob Myers today. They didn't know if he was going to get drafted. There was a really close chance that Jacob Myers was going to return. Well, let's see what happens there. I do feel like he leans a little bit Boston because that's where he got drafted and he wants to go. Let's see what happens there. I think some things are still up in the air. We'll see. I think LSU I don't know what's going to happen there. I do think he might move on. That part at the end is not sourcing. That is an opinion. But there was some serious conversations there at the late hour with Jacob Myers. Cade Woods also got drafted, who did not have a lot of experience with the Braves. It seems like just an arm that they're drafting. And Connor Ware went 463 to the Mets. What happens with Connor Ware? Can Connor Ware come back and get drafted a little bit higher will be a question. So we'll see there as well. There are some notable guys that did not get drafted. We talked about Zach Cowan, who's saying he is returning for his senior year, which is absolutely massive for the Tigers, could find himself in the rotation in the weekend for LSU. Tanner Reeves, who could have been drafted but was not. Jaden Newt also returns, and Chris Stanfield was not drafted. Let's see what happens there. We will break this team down a little bit further tomorrow. You got popped heavy. I know that there's been some worries about this team in reference to some of the things that happened. And some of the things that happened in reference to the draft. Guys, I do think that on the mound, you're still going to be very freaking good. Kason Evans, William Schmidt, Devin Sheeran, some of the guys you brought in the portal, Zach Cowan, etc. Some of the arms that you are bringing in from the high school level. I want to make this very, very well known. LSU has the elite potential to be extremely dominant on the mound. Can they hit and get there with their bats will be a massive question that we'll have to talk about. All right. Massive show. 2 massive shows this week and last week. It's been a big one. All right. We're out of here. We'll see you tomorrow. Have a lot more to talk about. I'm sure Carter Bryant will join us as well. Been a good one. Love what I heard. I forgot Aaron Anderson in the wide receiver room. There you go. I don't think I forgot about him, but there you go. If I did, you know what I mean. So absolutely massive. Every show is brought to you by our good friends over at Section 103, where their apparel is more comfortable than those club seats. Guys, go over to section103.com today. Use the promo code AYS at checkout. You'll get 10% off of your order. They got national title shirts. They got all of the best gear for LSU around. Again, section103.com. Go to the LSU section. You can use that promo code AYS to get 10% off for what is some of the most elite hats in the LSU realm that you will get along with the same elite apparel. Go to section103.com. Use that promo code so they know that your good friend Blake Ruffino at AYS sent you on by. We'll see y'all tomorrow. Y'all have a good night. Peace out, Girl Scouts.